Saiyans are perhaps one of the most well-known and popular alien species in fiction. Despite their appearance being nigh identical to that of humans, the word is rather synonymous with the Dragon Ball franchise itself. But have you ever wondered, what does it mean to be a Saiyan? What are the inner faculties and workings of a Saiyan? What powers do all Saiyans innately hold? How do hybrid Saiyans differ from pure Saiyans? Well folks, do I have the video for you. This is going to cover the biology of Dragon Ball Saiyans. By biology, I'm referring to the physical being of Saiyans as organisms and the traits and abilities associated with that. Specifically, most of this video is going to be talking about the pure Saiyans from Universe 7. We'll go over their appearance and innate abilities, the power of the Saiyan Zenkai Boost, their behavioral dispositions, how the different Saiyan transformations relate to their biology, and end off by covering the different types of Saiyans and how they differ from their pure-blooded counterparts. Saiyans have a rather unsuspecting appearance if one were within a crowd of humans. Saiyans stand at an average height, and all pure-blooded Saiyans have black or dark brown spiky hair, if they have hair, and are capable of growing facial hair. The most apparent visual difference between Saiyans and humans are their tails. Saiyans have monkey tails that stem out of their lower back. Despite the fact that most Saiyans have black hair, their tails are almost always brown. Saiyan tails do hold multiple functions. They can essentially act as an extra limb, as we see Goku use it to grab things in his younger years. We also learn that his tail was a part of his physical equilibrium, as once he's without it, he has a hard time walking around. Along with this is the weakness of the Saiyan tail. If one were to grab a Saiyan's tail, it puts them in a paralyzed state. Some get around this weakness by wrapping their tail around their waist. It seems that if removed, Saiyan tails grow back before a Saiyan hits puberty, but this regrowth process stops once they reach peak adulthood. The final ability of the Saiyan tail is something we'll get into a bit deeper in the video. Saiyans are beings who have what I call the, quote, basic Dragon Ball abilities. These abilities are super strength, super speed, flight, and ki blasts. The degree of this super strength is rather absurd, as a fully grown Saiyan has a power level of 1300 on the lower end. While this means nothing without narrative context, when connected to feats of power, we can see that even the weakest of Saiyans are capable of destroying celestial bodies like moons and planets. On the mid-range of a Saiyan's natural abilities, we see characters like Nappa and Paragus, who have a power level of 4,000, while Bardock and King Vegeta have a power level of 10,000. On the higher end, there's Vegeta, who had a power level of 18,000 pre-training. In their base forms, these characters can effortlessly wipe away multiple planets with their supreme power. Saiyans have a physical aging process that differs from normal humans. When Saiyans are young, they are quite short and runty. This is until they hit the age of 15, where they get a growth spurt. First mini rant here. This fact is funny because it's a narrative excuse for what I believe is a pretty blatant design inconsistency that just so happens to end up fitting within the story. By this, I mean that this is stated to be a universal thing about Saiyans by Goku and Gohan respectively when referring to Goten and Trunks in Dragon Ball Daima and Superhero. This manages to cover up the fact that in Dragon Ball Super, Goten and Trunks don't get redesigned, meaning that within that continuity they look the same at age 13 as they did when they were 7 and 8. This just so happens to retroactively apply to the other Saiyans because both instances where this could apply to Goku and Gohan, there's a convenient time skip, so we just see the end result of their growth spurt. All of that is to say is that means Goku and Gohan looked like this until they turned 15, which I think is really funny. The other notable thing about the Saiyan aging process is that they maintain their peak adulthood and fitness for a while. This is so they can continue to fight far beyond what would be a normal human's prime. While not confirmed, it seems the first thing that changes appearance-wise with age is a Saiyan's hair, as we know Nappa eventually goes bald and Vegeta in GT does have a different hairstyle. Going off this metric, we can assume that a Saiyan starts to resume the physical aging process once they hit their late 50s. Debatably, the most important and well-known innate ability of the Saiyans are their Zenkai Boosts and fighting potential. Zenkai Boost is the name given to a permanent power-up Saiyans get through fighting or surviving close death encounters. While ever pertinent throughout the entire franchise, the first time this is spelled out and defined for us, the reader, is within the Namek Saga when Vegeta is about to kill Qui. From this point, there's a shit ton of power-ups the Saiyans get that can be attributed to this phenomenon. Funnily enough, I wouldn't say this is too absurd in Dragon Ball Z, but the rules become much looser once we get to Dragon Ball Super. It seems Goku and Vegeta are just constantly growing in power as they fight through the grudge matches that are the Goku Black Saga and the Tournament of Power in the anime. Something of note is that this process can be actively repeated for a Saiyan to increase their strength. This happens twice within the series. The first is within the Namek Saga when Frieza transforms into his final form. Vegeta knows he needs more power to fight the Emperor, so he asks Krillin to injure him so he can be healed by Dende, giving him the Zenkai Boost. The next time we see this is the Goku Black Saga manga, where Goku Black utilizes Zamasu's healing ability to gain more power after his battle encounters. What's really notable about this moment in the arc is the reveal that the Zenkai Boost might have an upper limit to how strong it can make a Saiyan. As Trunks states, Goku and Vegeta no longer benefit from the boost. This statement should be taken with a grain of salt, however, as both within the anime and manga of Super, Goku and Vegeta continue to get stronger mid-battle. This also seems to contradict with the multitude of statements by Goku and Vegeta regarding their limitless power. What we can say is that a Saiyan's fighting potential differs from person to person. Some Saiyans benefit more from it than others. By far, the greatest example of this can be seen within Dragon Ball Super Broly, where Broly's damn near endless growth causes him to go from Super Saiyan Vegeta level to a Gogeta level threat in what is probably under an hour's worth of time. Another notable moment is from the Tournament of Power anime, where Blue Goku's strength grew so much that he managed to surpass his Ultra Instinct Saiyan self from the beginning of the tournament. Can we quantify the Zenkai Boost? While no multiplier is ever explicitly stated, we could hypothetically use everyone's favorite narrative tool, power levels, to come to a conclusion about how strong Zenkai Boosts are. To do this, we need to ground ourselves within the Namek Saga. In this saga, Goku and Vegeta go through a lot of punishment and are granted a lot of increases in power from said punishment. If we were to compare Goku and Vegeta's power levels pre and post to injury and healing, we could find a hypothetical multiplier for the Zenkai Boost. When Goku arrives on Namek, he's stated to have a power level of 180,000 in the Kaioken by the Ginyu Force. This means his power level in his base form should be 90,000. After Ginyu takes his body and Vegeta beats him up, Goku goes into the healing pod and then faces off against Frieza. This guide from Daizenshu 7 tells us that Goku's power level while fighting Frieza jumped all the way up to 3 million. After we divide this 3 million by 90,000, we see that the Zenkai Boost made Goku roughly 33 times more powerful. However, it's clear that this is on the upper end of what a singular Zenkai Boost is capable of, as if we were to compare this to Vegeta's power levels of 18,000 when arriving on Earth to 30,000 when arriving on Namek, we can see that he only got a 1.7 multiplier to his power. Overall, we have to keep in mind that these power levels and concrete numbers shouldn't be the main focus. Rather, these numbers give us a general idea of how potent these boosts can be. The next section is going to cover Saiyan behavioral dispositions. These are behaviors from Saiyans that are seen to be connected to their biology as compared to learned behaviors. The first is a Saiyan's battle lust. Saiyans really like fighting strong opponents. The first time this is seen within the original series is Goku's decision to keep Vegeta alive at the end of the Saiyan saga. He says that killing Vegeta would be a waste given that he's such a strong opponent. Goku remarks that he thinks that this is because of his Saiyan blood. From here, it seems that Goku and Vegeta share the sentiment throughout the entirety of their journeys. While it's abundantly clear that this is seen from Goku and Vegeta, this has occasionally bled into their sons. One moment from Dragon Ball Super in particular shows Gohan getting amped up to fight a strong opponent while watching his father fight Bergamo, and Gohan also attributes this to his Saiyan blood. By far the funniest of these traits that pops up within the Dragon Ball franchise is a Saiyan's ideal traits in a partner. In episode 31 of Dragon Ball Super, there's an interaction with Goku and Vegeta, witnessed by Piccolo, where Vegeta reveals that his appeal in Bulma is her feisty and assertive attitude. Goku agrees with this notion by saying Chi-Chi also reflects these traits. While nothing on its own, Vegeta also says that this is because the two of them are Saiyans, and that it's wired within them. This quote is interesting when applied to other characters within the series. It's clear that Z Videl shared these traits with Bulma and Chi-Chi, which means it's possible that this affected Gohan as well. Going up the generational tree, it's hard to make any concrete conclusions about Bardock and Gine, considering that we know next to nothing about their relationship. The only other case study is Tarbell's wife, Gure, who seems to break this trend with her timid and gentle personality. But Roshi does say within Yosun Goku and his friends return that her different physique aligns with the fact that Saiyans do tend to pick strange wives, indicating that Gure could have been an early case study of this phenomenon that would then become official in Dragon Ball Super. Along with this is the idea that many Saiyans appear to not be too sentimental with their partners or their children. However, this could be due to the personalities of the characters themselves as compared to their Saiyan blood. And now we can get into the various forms of the Saiyans. Specifically, this section is going to focus on the Giant Ape form and the other forms adjacent to it. We will also go over Super Saiyan, but it will not be that in-depth of a look into the form. We'll instead be going into the general mechanics of the form in relation to their biology. And that is, of course, because Super Saiyan needs its own video. It'll get its own video in this series down the road. The Saiyan tail makes a return with the Giant Ape form, or Great Ape form, depending on what you're looking at. While under the light of a full moon, a tailed Saiyan transforms into a giant monkey. An interesting factoid that's constant throughout the series is that a Saiyan needs to look at the full moon as compared to merely being exposed to moonlight. This pops its head within stories like Dragon Ball Z Movie 3, but also Dragon Ball Super Broly. The giant ape form typically resembles the base Saiyan in regards to their hairline. Power-wise, a Saiyan's giant ape form is 10 times the strength of their base self. Despite their size, a great ape's combat speed is not encumbered in any way, allowing for an incredibly formidable opponent and fighter. With great power and great monkey, there comes potential downsides. That being, only Saiyans with the strongest mental fortitudes are capable of controlling the form. An important note is that this seems to be based on mental strength/experience in the giant ape form as compared to physical strength. Within the series, characters like Goku, Gohan, and Broly never gain full control of the giant ape form, while Vegeta, Bardock, and other Saiyan foot soldiers are seen to have full control of themselves, even though they should be far weaker during these respective transformation times. The great ape form typically requires two things. The first is that there is a full moon outside, and the second is that the Saiyan who wishes to transform has a tail. But what if I told you there were ways around both of these things? To start with the moon requirement, we learned that the Saiyans actually developed a technique to allow themselves to replicate the energy of a full moon. This move is called the Power Ball, or the Burst Open and Mix technique. Vegeta says that what's happening here is that he is compressing the planet's atmosphere into a small ball to make an artificial moon. An artificial moon which emits the amount of light energy, otherwise known as Blutz or Brutus waves, that are required for a transformation. Toriyama went so in depth here is that he made a pseudoscience unit of light called a Zeno. And now that I'm looking at this in tandem with Brutus, I think Toriyama was making a funny reference to the Roman Empire, which I think is awesome. To go Great Ape, a Saiyan must be exposed to at least 17 million Zeno units. To stray away from the original series, GT shows us that the Earth was capable of emitting enough Blutz waves to allow Goku to go Great Ape, as if it was taking place of the moon under these celestial circumstances. GT also tells us that if a Saiyan is exposed to enough Blutz waves, they can transform into the giant ape form without a tail and without a moon. The only character to do this is Vegeta, who, when exposed to a Bulma-built machine that enhances the Blutz waves of the planet, is forced into the giant ape form in both the Baby Saga and the Shadow Dragon Saga. Sticking in GT, it would be a disservice to not mention the Golden Great Ape form and Super Saiyan 4. I would rather go into these forms deeper into another guide video, but for now I'll say that both forms are evolutions of the giant ape form, the latter of which is the combination of Super Saiyan and Great Ape, resulting in a form stronger than Super Saiyan 3. Super Saiyan 4 is the form beyond the Golden Great Ape and is the pinnacle of primal Saiyan power, at least within GT. Moving on to Dragon Ball Super, we are introduced to the Wrath form, which is when a Saiyan uses the power of the giant ape without transforming physically. The only character to do this within the series is Super Broly. Wrath Broly is so powerful that he was capable of going toe-to-toe with Super Saiyan God, Goku, and Vegeta. Not much is known about this form in terms of its accessibility, as Broly seems to access this power without being exposed to the full moon. This begs the question of whether or not Goku and Vegeta could achieve this form through shits and giggles or training. Hey guys, so during editing, Tough Man here again. So while grabbing the clips for this, Paragus specifically says that Broly is maintaining the power of the ape form, specifically without going into the lumbering movements of the giant monkey itself. And I was thinking that maybe this contradicts what Vegeta says to Goku, or what Goku implies about how even going Kaioken times 5 isn't enough to outspeed Great Ape Vegeta. But actually, I think what's going on here is that it's possible that the Great Ape form does actually encumber the user with speed, just that within the specific situation of Goku versus Vegeta in the Saiyan saga, Vegeta was just so powerful anyway that Goku still couldn't even keep up with it. And before we leave the Saiyan forms, we need to talk about Super Saiyan and the S cells. Super Saiyan is the Saiyan's ability to transform into a stronger, angrier versions of themselves, granting them blonde hair and blue eyes. In relation to Dragon Ball physiology, Dragon Ball Super tells us that going Super Saiyan includes a tingling sensation in the Saiyan's back. The ability to go Super Saiyan is actually determined by something called S cells. S cells are a concept that's never directly mentioned in the Dragon Ball franchise, but was introduced by Toriyama in an interview in 2017. Toriyama stated, "In order to become Super Saiyan, one's body must contain something called S cells. Once these cells reach a certain amount, a trigger, such as an explosion of anger, will explosively increase the S cells and cause a change in the body. That's Super Saiyan." Toriyama continues by describing how a Saiyan can increase their S cells. Having a gentle spirit is the best way to increase one's S cells, but most Saiyans have trouble with this. However, one can't reach the quantity necessary for becoming a Super Saiyan simply by having a gentle spirit, so a certain amount of battle power is indeed necessary. The final thing to mention about S cells and how they work are the different baselines for different Saiyans. Most Saiyans have some S cells, although not in great quality. The reason why Goku and Vegeta's children can become Super Saiyan relatively easily is because to a certain extent they inherited a lot of S cells, and also because Earth's environment is gentler and easier to live on than planet Vegeta. This final quote is especially interesting to me as it tells us the more S cells the Saiyan parent has at the time of their child's conception, the more S cells the child will inherit. That and easier environments result in more S cells, showing that a Saiyan's lived environment has an effect on them on a biological level. This latter fact is especially notable given that in early Z, King Kai attributes Vegeta's strength to the harsh conditions of his homeworld, meaning that this is a possible retcon from Toriyama in 2017. Within the home stretch of this video, we can talk about the different types of Saiyans in the Dragon Ball mythos. This video thus far has been talking about pure Saiyans from Universe 7, but what about cases of hybrid Saiyans or Saiyans from different universes? Luckily for us, Goku and Vegeta decided to repopulate, and we know quite a bit about hybrid Saiyans. The hybrid Saiyan who gets the most focus in the series is Gohan. Goku's prodigal son, whose potential and ability to gain stronger through rays surpasses that of his father. All that's really known about what makes hybrid Saiyans different from their pure-blooded counterparts is that it's usually the case that they have a higher potential for growth. Vegeta posits that this could have been due to the mixing of human and Saiyan blood. However, when taking S cells into account, this could be the specific case of the offsprings of Goku and inevitably Vegeta, who grew up in relatively lax and peaceful environments. The existence of Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Bola tells us that Saiyans can reproduce with other alien species. These four also show us that it's possible for Saiyans to be born without their tails. Gohan, Goten, and Trunks show us that half-blooded Saiyans can go Super Saiyan and utilize different Saiyan forms. There has been some contention on whether or not hybrid Saiyans have access to higher Super Saiyan forms like Super Saiyan 4 and the God forms, but Super Dragon Ball Heroes has Gohan utilizing Super Saiyan 4 and Trunks utilizing Super Saiyan God. And there's the Heroes reference for the video. Other than this, it's safe to assume that most rules listed above apply to hybrid Saiyans. But does Saiyan blood get less potent as it's inherited? As far as we know, not really. This is pretty important to point out as it's a pretty big misconception that Pan couldn't go Super Saiyan in GT due to her being a quarter Saiyan, aka the daughter of a half Saiyan and a human. We know this is untrue as Goku Jr., aka Goku's great-great-grandson, and you can add 2 more great theirs depending on what you're looking at, was still capable of going Super Saiyan even though he would have inherited far less Saiyan blood than his grandmother. Despite the fact that Pan never goes Super Saiyan, it's abundantly clear that Pan inherited her father's fighting potential in pretty much all of her appearances, as she's a reliable fighter at the end of Z and in GT, and is seen to be capable of flight even as an infant in Dragon Ball Super. The case study of Pan also potentially exemplifies how potent Saiyan DNA is early on within the lifespan, given that she was capable to prenatally partake in the Super Saiyan God ritual. I want to conclude this section by mentioning the other cases of beings who have diluted Saiyan blood. There are the 2 body snatchers of Baby and Zamasu who seem to have been able to damn near fully utilize the power of the Saiyans. Baby to a lesser extent as he was never able to achieve Super Saiyan 4. Zamasu was able to use Goku's body to the extreme and take full advantage of the Saiyan Zenkai and even made that power his own. Other than these goobers, there's Cell, who is capable of using the Saiyan Zenkai, and, depending on your interpretation, was able to use multiple Super Saiyan forms despite the fact that he was constituted of multiple alien species. One could also argue that Cell also had the Saiyan's lust for battle, and if you want to learn more about Cell and the androids, go check out my androids video, shameless plug. And finally, we've reached the most recent addition to the Saiyan family, the Universe 6 Saiyans. Universe 6 Saiyans have a brief impact on the Dragon Ball mythos, but I believe they have made quite the impression. With that caveat, we have to remember that everything stated about Universe 6 Saiyans as a whole stems from only 3 case studies. Physically, Kale, Caulifla, and Kaba are similar to their Universe 7 counterparts in some ways and different in others. They share the mostly universal black spiky hair, but are all seen to be rather lean and lack tails. The most notable difference between Universe 6 Saiyans is their mass battle potential. Kaba, Kale, and Caulifla were able to go Super Saiyan and go toe-to-toe with god-tier characters within moments of being introduced to such levels of power. Essentially, they were able to achieve what Goku and Vegeta took years to take in mere moments. Kaba teaching Caulifla to go Super Saiyan is where the funny tingling back feeling of Super Saiyan came to be. Reaching back around to S cells, it's possible that Universe 6 Saiyans have more S cells due to planet Sadala, their home planet, seemingly being a much more peaceful environment compared to that of planet Vegeta, which in turn explains this ridiculous level of latent potential. And that's it. That's mostly everything there is to know about Saiyan biology. Did you guys learn something new? Was there anything I forgot? This video is probably going to get a sequel at some point that involves more of the Saiyan culture and history within the Dragon Ball mythos. Also, let me know how you guys like this format where I interjected trivia as the video went on as compared to a detailed section towards the end of certain sections. I'm always looking for new video ideas, so comment some below. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day, everyone.